Hello, and welcome to Local Motion, a production of the University of Minnesota's University Dance Theater. I'm Carl Flink, the director of the university's dance program. In a typical year, the dance works you are about to see would of course have been performed live, but the reality of the COVID pandemic required that we rethink how we would approach this year's production. Rather than downsizing, we decided to go big. Normally, we would have had 3 artists from across the country and even the world come and make or set work on our students. Instead, we determined to make a huge investment in the incredible talent of the Twin Cities diverse dance community. Last summer, we reached out to 13 local artists from a wide range of aesthetics and approaches and asked them to conduct 10 two-week residencies this past fall semester, the final outcome of which would be designed and filmed by local professionals in our Barker 100 studio theater. All in all, Local Motion invested over $80,000 from our John and Sage Cowles Guest Artist Endowment and departmental funding in our local performing arts community at a time when so many arts professionals have lost work due to the pandemic. Tonight, you will experience 4 premieres by HIJACK, Herb Johnson III, Patricia Brown, and Leila Awadallah. I, for one, am truly astounded by what these artists have created with our talented dance students and thank each of them for the gift of their creativity. The mission of our dance program is contemporary dance in global contexts. And while all these artists are local, they exemplify that mission in every way. To riff off of a familiar saying, they create locally, but think globally. The dance program strives intentionally to identify guest artists who truly represent a wide range of identities and cultural perspectives, and Local Motion embodies that commitment. Each film is generally preceded or followed by a statement about the work by the artist. I want to express my deep gratitude to the university dance theater leaders, Artistic Director Erin Thompson, Assistant Artistic Director Laura Selle-Virtucio, Production Director Mike Grogan, and Program Coordinator Nora Jenneman for their Herculean efforts in bringing all of this work to the small screen. It has been an incredible year. And now, I welcome Professor Ananya Chatterjee and the students from her Choreographing Social Justice course to share an embodied statement to the ongoing systemic harms in our society and to express their commitment to a future of justice that fights those systemic harms. In the wake of the energies released by the murder of George Floyd this past May, our program is committed and recommitted to making anti-racism and social justice cornerstones of our Barker community. And now, without further ado, I invite you to sit back and enjoy Local Motion Part 3.
We acknowledge the location of the University of Minnesota dance program on the unceded territories of the Dakota Oyate and the Anishinaabe nations.
We offer our love to the many waters within and around us. We carry this energy to the sky and ground ourselves. We hold up the name of this land, Minnesota Okoche. We honor this land where our hearts reflect the sky. We humble ourselves to reconnect and root our breath into the earth. We join with each other and the community around us to acknowledge past harms, and commit to a future of justice.
Hi, we're HIJACK. I'm Arwen Wilder.
I'm Kristen Van Loon.
And we want to start most of all by thanking people. We want to thank the students who were so open and generous and careful and safe. And the rehearsal directors, Erin and Laura, who were all of those things and also encouraging and a lovely, generous presence all the time, as well as everyone who was in the building with us, all of the technical people on the night of the filming who were all so careful and safe and pleasant to work with.
We'd also like to thank the wonderful team of designers that we were paired with. Karen with lighting design and Rhiannon with costumes, and also Caitlin with the videography. Everyone was so generous and fun to work with. And finally, we'd really like to thank Carl and Nora and Mike and Drea and the team that conceived of this whole project. You know, as Arwen said, we feel very lucky, fortunate to have participated, and it was a very creative solution to keep art making, choreography, and performance happening. And just a little bit, we'll say a little bit about what we did. One thing that was exciting was just working for video. And I don't say that because we are into video, we're not. But it was a challenge that kept us experimental, and that we do value.
Another thing that was important about how we worked, that is always important to us about how we work, is that we don't know what we're going to make ahead of time. We work with what is real in the moment. We work with the time that we're in and the people who are with us in the room, and the architecture and the space and that energy of the room. And what we're trying to do is learn to be present and responsive and really listening to what the current conditions are, and then to act from that place. And in that way, we feel that we are all the participants in the room are very active and are together in the making. And that is part of how we question the power dynamics of dance making, of choreography versus choreography with music, of academic power structures, of governmental power structures, being present and local, and looking at things as they relate to the biggest pictures.
Thank you.
Oh, what will happen? Oh, what will happen?
Hey, Herb Johnson here, choreographer for Living Your Power, and just wanted to talk about the process of choreographing this piece and just the overall thought process behind it. I'm one of the leaders here in Minnesota for the Crump community, and in my experience and in a lot of the people that I mentor, the mentees, and their experience, especially the women, in such a style that is male dominated, they have found it challenging to participate during certain times within our community. For example, some of the physicalities of the dance sort of expose parts of women that are sexualized in today's commercial industry, such as chest pops, right, which is a movement of the chest. And a lot of women have found it uncomfortable to execute a chest pop in front of a group of males. And so the thought process behind my piece as a male choreographing Crump, which is a male dominated style, on two young women, I wanted to alleviate any thoughts that me as a male was in any way sexualizing them. So the first thing that we communicated right off the bat was that they were not going to, be sexualized in any way. And moving forward, I also didn't want to project my male perspective on how they were deciding to move their bodies based off of what I was teaching them. A very clear example, our hip regions, the bone structure is different from male to female. So one of the foundations, stomping, in certain situations, when teaching stomps to ladies, in some ways their hips their pelvis decides to move a certain way. And there was a time where I caught myself telling another woman, hey, you don't move your hip in that way, try and keep it here. And in a way, I was stopping her from being what she was and from moving how her body was deciding to move. And so from that moment, I learned, and my takeaway is that not only are our bodies different, but the way that a man crumps is going to be different from the way that a woman crumps. Where a man's crump comes from is going to be different than a woman's place of mentality. Her way is going to come from somewhere different. A man's power in Crump isn't going to come from the same place as a woman's power in Crump. And so I wanted to find a way to empower the women in my piece and allowing them to live in their power, even though they're learning from a male in the perspective of Crump, which is a male-dominated style. I wanted them to feel powerful in what they were doing. And that pretty much sums up some of the experiences that we had during this process. I don't want to take up too much time. Thank you very much for being here, and I hope you enjoy the pieces. Bye.
Hello, I am Patricia Brown, and I'm one of the invited choreographers for this year's University Dance Theater's Fall Dance Concert. I would like to thank the people who were involved in me being a part of this process. I also want to thank Carl, Nora, Erin, Laura, Mike, and Drea for their departmental support along the way. I thank John and Sage Cowles for their incredible support of the arts and for the land grant that's been created in their names. Once I said yes, I started thinking about what I wanted to create and who I wanted to work with on this process, especially with having only 2 weeks to create and film the piece. I knew I wanted to work somewhat differently than I often get to. It's been a while since I've made solo work or work for small groups because I often work with large casts. So I chose to create a solo piece this time. I generally work alone, so I asked one of my students, Tumelo Coupe, to assist me. I knew I wanted to ask my longtime collaborator, Ahanti Young, to create the music for the piece. And I knew I wanted to make a piece that was slow, heavy, dark, because a lot of my work has an upbeat energy. So we met our cast on the first day, Johanna and Ben, one in the studio and one at home on Zoom, because there was a possibility of COVID exposure. I was a little taken aback, but knew we would make the best of it, all the while not knowing when or if I would eventually have both dancers in the studio. Fortunately, we were able to have them both in the room during the second week. I came in with a framework for a piece that was rooted in systematic racism. And then I decided instead to create a piece about human issues that were personally important to each of us and expand from there. We collaboratively built and then blended what we came up with into the work. One challenge we had was creating a new dance work and original music simultaneously because each element was dependent on the other. It eventually all found its way, and Ahanti created a beautiful piece of work, piece of music to support the dance piece. Ben, you are wonderful to work with. Thank you for your incredible commitment and for your great attitude. You brought a lot of heart to the work and made the choreography your own, which helped in shaping a different perspective. I celebrate you, Ben, and I am so happy and proud of your performance. Thank you to Mello and Ahanti for everything you contributed to this process, and thanks for saying yes. Thank you to everyone on the production team, Mike, Rhiannon, Caitlin, Jim, Jeremy, and Philip, for creating your magic to expand and complete the work for the stage and for the camera. And to you, the audience, thank you for being here. We hope you enjoy the work.
Hello, my name is Leila Awadallah. I'm the choreographer of Wadi Serotiny in collaboration with my amazing cast, Milo, Annika, and Sierra, as well as V. Paul on video. It was an amazing experience to come back to the U and be a choreographer for UDT. I absolutely feel so honored and really think about my time at the U as such an important time with faculty and with experiences to commit myself to dance and choreography and research. So thank you so much for having me. My piece, Wadi Serotiny, begins with the title. Wadi translates in Arabic to Valley of Fire, and Wadi is the name of a road in Palestine that leads to my ancestral home in Beit Jala. This road was very dangerous historically because of rock slides, because it was treacherous and thin and, you know. But now it's more dangerous because of the occupation, because of the checkpoints on the road and the violence that the Israeli military has brought onto Palestinian bodies. People on this road have been murdered. And as a Palestinian, you know, brings about a lot of rage and sorrow. And that's why the second part, Serotiny is a way to describe the seeds that need a flame to break open and grow into a tree. So jack pines need a forest fire, and they grow back after the fire, and the forest finds a new way to come back to life. And so I was thinking a lot about kind of the rage and injustice that leads to the flames of the seeds cracking open, and what grows from there, what changes after that environmental trigger in Serotiny it's an environmental trigger, but for us it's everything trigger. You know, where do we go from this place of rage? That was totally developed with me and my cast. I didn't come in with this idea at all. I came in with the idea to meet them in their bodies and the memories of land, and also share my research in Palestine and Lebanon, and both in like dance movement and culture and language, but also in politics and human rights. And so we talked a lot, and this is where we ended. We ended with this work, comprehending, you know, what the uprising in Minneapolis means. What does it mean to figure out our role in community, figure out what, you know, how our bodies process this, how our bodies are connected to our ancestors and to memories of land and water, and where rage can go when we imagine what rage can do, what rage can move, like fire, what changes fire can bring. And so this is like our metaphor we carry, what we're honoring. It was really, in terms of dance and film, I love dance film. I think it's a fascinating medium intersection. My cast and V. Paul know I was like always kind of juggling how I thought about to make it into a film. Some images were very specific, some weren't, and I overall was like, I want it to be a performance from beginning to end, but I want it to still play with a few moments where we use film and the magic it can offer to the performance. So there's that. And these objects in the piece, these artifacts, the oud, which is a beautiful instrument of the region, and the water jug and the stones from the Mississippi River, they're all holding. I don't think of them as artifacts, I think of them as beings. And so they hold our memories throughout the process and throughout time, and where they're from and what they mean. So it's a lot about processing memories and loss and rage, and this is where we ended up with this particular piece. So really gratitude to the dancers, to the whole crew, lighting, sounds, my amazing musicians, which you'll hear. So yeah, okay, stop talking. Okay, enjoy.